Hello and welcome to this ATM virtual panel on how the lack of international travel has affected the Middle East food and beverage scene over the past year or so. I'm Simon Ritchie, editor of Caterer Middle East, and I'm joined today by a number of fantastic panelists who I'll introduce you to shortly. Now, you don't need me to tell you that the last 15 months have been among the strangest and most challenging that not just the F&B industry, but the entire world has ever experienced. While everyone has been affected in one way or another, travel, tourism and hospitality have been among the hardest hit industries due to the pandemic. We've seen various lengths of lockdowns across the region, with restaurants often closed for weeks and months at a time, or else operating under strict restrictions that limit customer numbers or entertainment. Some people in the industry have made stark predictions about the number of restaurants we would lose due to the impact of the coronavirus. However, having spent the last year speaking to as much of the industry as I could, I've also heard a lot of positivity, particularly here in Dubai, that not only were things not as bad as feared, but actually many operators had better years than expected. Often the common link between these good news stories was that the lack of international travel actually kept people here in the Middle East rather than flying off to Europe for summer or for other holidays. So, is that the case? Have we benefited from not having international travel, or have we missed the influx of visitors that would have also come to the region? That's what we'll be discussing today with our illustrious panel featuring a number of the hospitality industry's most respected and insightful people. I'm joined today by Emma Banks, Vice President, F&B Strategy and Development for the Europe, Middle East and Africa at Hilton. I'm joined by Lynn Bellinger, the Director of Food and Beverage Design and Development at Marriott International, Europe, Africa and the Middle East. And Samantha Wood, publisher, writer, F&B, digital consultant, and founder of the Food Diva review platform. And we also hope to be joined very shortly by Suhaila Gubash, Director of Events for Dubai Festivals and Retail Establishment. So thank you all so much for joining me today and sharing your experience and expertise with the audience. So let's get started. Now, Samantha, I'd like to start with you first. As someone with her ear to the ground and finger on the pulse, you've been very proactive in the restaurant scene over the past year or so here in the UAE. So do you believe that regional venues, I'm guessing Dubai in particular, have seen a boost due to people not leaving the country? What have you been hearing?
Very much so, but it really depends on the restaurant type. So those independently operated concepts that pivoted well and have always marketed to residents have performed strongly from what I can tell. Now, taking into account capacity restrictions as well. Whereas those hotel operated restaurants that didn't attack their marketing strategy did suffer and are continuing to suffer. Obviously, those that did and then started to market to residents have benefited. But I think it's also, and this is where it would be obviously good to get Emma and Lynn's feedback, is that it's worth noting that many hotels did not open and have not opened all their restaurants either.
Well, yeah, coming to let's go to Lynn then on that part as well. What's been your general perspective in terms of the restaurants in your hotels? And yeah, how has that been affected by the fact that you perhaps kept some shut while keeping some open due to either a lack of numbers or a lack of people staying in the country at the moment?
Yeah, I mean, I think what Samantha said has some merit. I think, yes, if you don't focus on your local market and you don't do the marketing correctly, then hotels are going to suffer. Saying that, we've had some excellent results from, some of the real destination hotels when it comes to food and beverage, and they've done even better than even pre-pandemic in that respect. We do always encourage our hotels to look first at, at local communities when they're designing and when we're building restaurants, when we're taking into consideration what sort of restaurants we want in the hotels, especially the specialty restaurants. So we do tend to focus on the local communities when it comes to restaurants, restaurant marketing, etc. Not saying that we don't focus on the hotel guests, because obviously, you know, we have to, but we know that the mix is far greater from the local community, and that's where your loyalty lies, exactly what Samantha has said. So in terms of that, some have done much better, and some of them haven't performed as well. Again, it depends on the kind of restaurants that they are. Like I said, we have had some hotels shut, but majority are open now, and some restaurants we didn't open as well. But yeah, it's a mixed bag out there, really.
Has that been your experience too, Emma? How's the last 15 years, 15 years, it's felt like 15 years, how has the last 15 months or so treated Hilton's hotels and the restaurants, and have you seen any kind of boost from local residents?
Well, I think if we talk about this region, the MEA region has performed extraordinarily well on the globe, and that's, you know, enjoying occupancy levels. KSA, Qatar, UAE, Seychelles have enjoyed occupancy levels in their hotels that are, you know, actually outperforming a lot of the globe. So first of all, I think, you know, especially when we look at the UAE, congratulations to the UAE. I mean, fabulous management of the pandemic. Naturally, we all went down into lockdown, and, you know, Hilton for the first time in its life found itself closing hotels instead of opening them. But so because of how well this region has managed the pandemic, I think we recovered and opened hotels incredibly quickly. In fact, you know, if you look at Ras Al Khaimah and Dubai specifically, you know, we went almost, you know, to maximum volumes based on physical distancing and hotel occupancy levels that we were allowed to. The business actually pivoted to focusing considerably on our food and beverage revenues, because obviously we were very much supported by loyal residents who actually became, you know, kind of locked down in the region, so started to enjoy staycations and started to enjoy spending their leisure and their disposable income in the region and in local hospitality and local restaurants. I concur with Samantha that, you know, I think if you've got strong concepts, independent or hotel, the strong got stronger through the pandemic in that they actually pivoted, they came up with innovative ways. You know, in lockdown, we saw all the crazy delivery stuff and everything like that going on, and meal kits. But once we came out of lockdown, we saw those that, you know, put in place amazing hygiene protocols. You know, Hilton used CleanStay, but then, you know, put in great technology, put in solutions that were user friendly. But also, you know, if we look about, Samantha's absolutely right, it was all about coming out of during the pandemic and out of the pandemic. Was ever there a reason to stay connected with your local residents? So, you know, we at Hilton, we focused more on F&B marketing. You know, for the first time ever, we unlocked our global award-winning Hilton Honors program, and have been doing for 6 months a very successful F&B loyalty promotion linked to Hilton Honors. First time globally we've ever done it. It's been so successful the first 6 months of the trial, we're continuing it for another 6 months and expanding it into Europe shortly. You know, we launched we looked at our pricing strategy along with our marketing to make sure that we were attractive to the local residents, rather than just relying on a captive tourist destination disposable income. We introduced things like such as our combo deals through our out the box OTB campaign, OT Burger, that saw fantastic results, OTB Poke. You know, so we also looked at not only this, but, you know, things like delivery, meal kits, our festive unhampered. So I think Samantha's absolutely right. It was about those concepts that were strong and established already in the market that actually, you know, looked at innovative ways to attract their guests back, reassured their guests, put in place technology, and also actually continued to market really, really hard. In terms of performance, the Middle East and Africa region is seeing incredible performance, as I say, not only by that strong local residential staycation market, but we're seeing really as travel starts to resume and the pent-up demand for travel, and Dubai being such an iconic destination globally, we are seeing fantastic footfall from sort of France, from France and CIS countries as well. And, you know, we only hope that as Dubai continues to open up, as more air corridors open up, it's only going to get stronger. So this region, I think, has been incredibly well managed from the leadership, and I think the F&B within the hotels and the independent sector have actually probably weathered the storm a lot more than other parts of the globe.
So that's, you know, very strong, very positive answers from all three of you there. And I'm just delighted to say I can welcome Suhail Agubash from the Director of Events of Dubai Festivals and Retail Establishment to the call, who will be able to give us a fantastic perspective from Dubai tourism and from a local point of view here. So welcome, Suhail.
Hi, how are you? Good afternoon, everyone.
Listen, thank you so much for joining us. I'm not sure how much of the first part of the discussion you heard there. But essentially, we were just getting an overview for how well the region, and obviously from your perspective, for how well Dubai in particular has done over the past 15 months. You know, so I think it would be great to get a perspective from yourself in terms of what's your feeling on the ground from Dubai's F&B sector in terms of how well the last 15 months has went compared to perhaps how badly some people might have thought it went, when actually we have dealt with it fairly well.
I think within the pandemic, the only thing people could do is just eat, you know. So I'm sure restaurant has done a great job in terms of, you know, providing different cuisines, home deliveries, you know, different things to try, new things to do. So, you know, looking at overall the pandemic experience and what we've been through at the Dubai Tourism, with all the different, you know, the different pillars and the different assets that we own as a city, and from being the tourism board and, you know, also the managing festivals and events in the city, it's been a very challenging time, that's for sure. But we've recovered very quickly. We've recovered in a healthy way. You know, we've improved in terms of, you know, gaining confidence of people to come back to the city, to enjoy the different places, to go out, to enjoy dining, to enjoy, you know, looking at all the aspects of the city, including gastronomy, of course. So as I said, it's for everybody. The whole group has been struggling and suffering, and some of them has taken longer than us in terms of recovery, and still are, you know, going through different phases. But you know, thank God, and thank God to the leadership that we have in this country, and thank God to the maturity of the people who's living in this country, from different, you know, from different nations. We have 200 nationalities living in the city, and these 200 nationalities came together, you know, believed in the leadership and followed all the possible instructions to make sure things recover quickly and things go back to normal as much as possible, to today's normal, and that's covering all the different also segments. So if it is hospitality, if it is gastronomy, if it is retail, you know, we've been trying from all levels to make sure that all these pillars recover at the same time, in the same also pattern, so there is no drop in one versus the other.
I mean, yeah, I think
you're right. You know, the government here have done an incredible job, and as Emma says as well, they've done really well, and I think getting the country back on track with everything has been great. But unfortunately, if we're talking about the whole Middle East, not all of the countries have done so well. So, you know, if you look at the other Gulf countries, they really suffered badly with lockdown. If you look at Oman, if you look at Qatar, all those countries, Lebanon hasn't been doing very well as well. So looking at all the other countries, they're really, really restricted. So they haven't enjoyed the reach the benefits that Dubai has done with getting all the staycation business and, you know, having things up and running as quickly as we have in Dubai. So that's been a bit of a tough cookie for them. Saudi's sort of, in the middle a little bit. But yeah, some of the other countries just coming out of lockdown now are really struggling. So we have to, think about those ones as well.
Yeah, it's certainly something that makes this topic quite challenging, is that here in Dubai, it almost feels like we've been back to normal for quite a while, and we're talking about the positives and the strengths of Dubai, whereas the rest of the region, unfortunately, hasn't quite had the same positivity. Which certainly, I think that's the way to kind of split this conversation into two. Unfortunately, it's Dubai versus the rest of the Middle East.
Yeah.
So obviously, I said this conversation is indeed covering the whole of the region. So we do want to hear the perspective from the places that perhaps aren't doing as well compared to places like Dubai, which have been positive.
That point, sorry, Simon, to that point, I think KSA and Qatar have still enjoyed strong domestic tourism, though. I mean, we opened our resort down at Salwa on the Qatar-Saudi border, and that has opened to such strong acclaim. I mean, to the point that, we've had to sort of support and reinforce a little bit more from corporate office here in Dubai, so I think to that point, I think in the GCC, let's not just get UAE centric to broaden the discussion like Lynn has done. Countries such as Saudi are I know that there's a pent-up demand there to travel as well, but we've had strong domestic tourism in other GCC countries, because we know that they also have, like the UAE, rich heritage, great beach locations, great city locations, so there is strong domestic tourism in some parts of the GCC as well, which is, I think, fared them a bit better than other parts of the globe.
Yeah, I mean, obviously staycations have played a huge role in matters here in Dubai as well. In terms of, so in fact, for Lynn, in terms of the number of increasing staycations that we're getting, as Emma said, whether it's in Saudi Arabia, whether it's here in Dubai or elsewhere in the UAE, how much has that affected your hotel F&B? Has that made up for the shortfall? And has that change in demographic affected things as well? Is the local travellers different from the international travellers?
Look, I think everyone's been locked up for so long. Talking about Dubai for a moment again, or UAE, they want to get out. Well, they want to socialise. Been unable to travel abroad, so they are going out to restaurants. The average spend is higher in the restaurant, so that's been a great bonus for us within the properties. Qatar, as I mentioned, everyone's been affected by the pandemic. If you talk about the expat community in Qatar, they're not spending their money as much because they've been affected. Their compensation has been reduced, and they've just got less disposable income, and they're just not spending it. But if you look at the locals in Qatar, yes, they're making up for it. They are spending a lot of money when it goes to when it comes to dining out, etc. But yeah, I mean, that's hopefully going to change now that things are starting to open up. As for KSA and Egypt, we've seen a huge increase in the delivery market over there. But standalone concepts have done particularly well, and those key concepts that are really doing well, like some of our third parties, some of the standalone concepts, they've done extremely well. Some of them you can't even get a table for a couple of weeks. But in terms of different areas, it is different in different areas, and this UAE has definitely been the faring the best out of all of them for the dining market.
I mean, DIFC as an example, I mean, they've really benefited from a new residential customer base that's been visiting their restaurants in the evenings, and that has replaced some of that lost lunch business from the offices. And I think going back to something you touched upon as well, Lynn, yes, that average spend is higher. People are more selective about where they eat and spend their sort of hard-earned money. But for those foodies, and let's remember that actually the foodies is only a small percentage of, let's say, Dubai, UAE population. But those whose income hasn't been affected, they're eating out more than ever and more frequently. I'd say the diner is also kinder. No-shows have dropped from what I can tell. Customers are more understanding and they're more appreciative when dining out as well. So I think there are lots of silver linings as well.
I think,
yeah, I'd say, sorry, go on. I was just going to say, I think, you said that, has the leisure and staycation business, bridged the gap from lack of international tourism. Let's be clear, Dubai is one of the best tourist destinations in the world. So, that's a big ask to fill for the millions of visitors that we enjoy on a normal year pre-pandemic, we look forward to when tourism really does pick up again. But to Samantha's point and Lynn, walk-in guests into hotel restaurants are increasing, and actual increasing in numbers, not just compared to sleep-in ratios, but also average spend going up. And I think people are enjoying, to what Samantha's point, people have been selective where they're spending their money, where be it loyalty programs, be it experiential dining, be it mechanics, be it just great solid concepts offering great product. The other thing is I think what this pandemic has really pushed, if you talk about local staycations and daycations and local residents, people have also seen a real switch to supporting local. So from a hospitality operator's perspective, it's also ramped up that whole program around not only looking to local residents, but looking to work with local partners, local suppliers, and continue to support the local economy from a circular perspective as well, which I think has been another benefit from the pandemic. And, let's not waste, there was always that expression, never waste a crisis. What will happen out of this crisis is that people will become much more innovative, much more prepared to switch, more open-minded, more flexible, more nimble. If anything, this is like put a lot of people on their toes and a lot of businesses on their toes. And I think from a very positive perspective as well.
We've had a...
Sorry. If I may add to that, recently in the last few weeks, I've seen a growth in terms of people going out and dining, in terms of especially in high density places like Dubai Mall, for example. This weekend, we had queues of people waiting to have a table at a restaurant or a cafe. And we've noticed also that increased, especially with the opening of Saudi market and the Qatari market, where we've seen a lot of tourists coming from that market as soon as they open, which is a good indication of how people are eager to go out and dine and also travel and come to a new market and experience different dining experiences.
Yeah, I think what I would say is, and Suhail, to come back to you, is, do you think because of the way Dubai has handled this crisis over the past year, the fact that the restaurants are open, as you said, we're already seeing people instantly wanting to come here and travel here and dine here. Has Dubai, has it increased its gastronomic reputation worldwide due to the way it's handled this situation?
Well, definitely. We have more than 200 nationalities living in this country, and we have as much cuisines as they are. We have more than 10,000 restaurants in the city, and it varies from homegrown businesses to fine dining to experiential dining to different experiences. And it is something to be proud of. It is something also to brag about and talk about and bring to attention to the world about it. It's one of our bigger pillar moving forward when it comes to communicating tourism to different destinations. We will be communicating gastronomy as a strong pillar and showcasing the diversity that the city has offered. Also, if you look at the government regulations that supported the industry during the pandemic timing, allowing the delivery during the pandemic, where even when the lockdown was there, still they allowed the delivery to houses. In Ramadan, allowing dining during the day, which was not allowed before, and opening restaurants during Ramadan. So there's a lot that is done to the industry to support them, and also looking at all the regulations that the government has, and how can we bend some of those rules or change them or amend them to support not only gastronomy, but all the different pillars of the economy.
You think that will continue, Sahel, for the Ramadan, having open restaurants, or is that just for COVID? Do you think, or do you think that will continue?
No, that's going to continue. Yes.
Continues. Yeah.
I think that's certainly very, very positive news. Now, we've just had a question through that I think perhaps Samantha would be best primed for answer, and I think it builds off what Sahil says there in terms of now we're seeing international travellers begin to return to Dubai. Has the past year been a chance for homegrown restaurants to shine and grow in time for this influx of new visitors? And will people have heard of them? Will they be looking to visit more Dubai homegrown restaurants, do you think?
Yeah, I think there was already pre-pandemic a real drive and appetite for homegrown over imported concepts. I think gone is the day where the celebrity chef is gonna shine. People want to support local, and that's not just F&B. That's for across all different industries. And that's not just residents, it's people traveling in. Clearly they'll have to do their research a little bit more if they purposely want to support those restaurants. And at the same time, those restaurants need to adapt and start marketing internationally as well, if they want to. A lot of them are busy as it is with the local population, but you should never put all your eggs in one basket anyway. So I think there's definitely the drive for that. I mean, I see it with inquiries that I get, both people here and people flying in. The number one criteria is, don't give me an imported concept. Give me the name of a local restaurant, whether that's independently operated or one that is in a hotel, but it's a locally developed concept.
I know, Emma, obviously Hilton has been expanding its F&B, or is certainly looking to do that even more so, and I believe homegrown is a bit of a focus with you. You've got several top chefs here in Dubai of homegrown and that are very well known. How pivotal is that for Hilton going forward?
Well, I mean, it's absolutely key. We operate in 69 countries in EMEA, and so it's a combination. I always look at hotel food and beverage, myself and my team, we always look at it on a property by property basis, a market by market basis, and what's the gap and the white space, rather than a cookie cutter approach. But certainly not just in Dubai, but in any market that we operate in, there is a real push to develop local talent, i.e. grow your own, or actually partner and work with local talent. And we just in the UK, we're about to sign with another local talent. We're just about to open a hotel in Croatia, in Costa Bella, a beautiful resort where we've now partnered with Serbia's youngest Michelin star chef. So I think it's a balance of growing your own internally, and here in the region we've got Chef John, who's a local grown chef. We've got Chef Luigi, who's been in the region a while, Chef Yanis. We've got a lot of chefs that we continue to work with and promote, and we're working, we're just about to work very closely with Farm on Table, a local farm aggregator, on our Made in the UAE menus across 6 of our key restaurants. We work with Dubai with Dubai Tourism. We're very much at the front of the Dubai Food Festival, and working on promoting our own homegrown chefs, as well as international celebrity chefs. So yeah, homegrown in any market, local chefs, I think is absolutely key. And to the point on tourism, you know, Samantha's got inquiries for people, you know, she's an expert in the food and beverage scene in this market. You know, similarly, we've got tourists going into all our destinations, and they want to find the hidden gems. They want to find, you know, that touch of local, and we try and provide that within the properties. But also, you know, I know we're not stupid. Guests also are looking to go out and about and explore cities as well and support the local economy and the independent sector. I think you'll see us at Hilton, we'll do more and more with Dubai Tourism. We're looking at an always on gastronomy campaign with them, which we're working on in the early stages. We're also working with the Department of Tourism and Culture in Abu Dhabi on some upcoming initiatives. So we very much want to work on you know, supporting our government partners in their departments about promoting this region as a gastronomic experience. But I think local and homegrown both, and you know, back to supporting homegrown and local suppliers as well.
Now,
I may add to what the ladies are saying, like as a government entity as well, we've been supporting the homegrown businesses as well through different you know, initiatives, like as the lady mentioned, Food Festival is one of those you know, platforms where we have, for example, a platform called Beach Canteen, where in that Beach Canteen we focus only on homegrown businesses and concepts, and we highlight them during that time of the year. We do have another project during the shopping festival, which is called Market OTB, which is another platform also to promote the homegrown businesses, and that's been going on for several years on different platforms. And some of those homegrown concepts that were present in those markets or those you know, initiatives that we've created are already retailers or now already have their own restaurants, you know, which is something we're happy about and proud to support. We work very closely also with SME, and SME is an agency under Dubai Economic Department, and they focus also on all the homegrown businesses and how to support them. And we work with them in different festivals, creating pop-up markets, creating opportunities for them. Over and above, of course, from a tourism perspective also, we noticed that as the ladies has mentioned, if there is any tourist that is coming in the city, they always ask about the hidden gems. They always ask about the homegrown restaurants and how do they go to them and how do they experience them. And that is something that encouraged the idea to promote, you know, all those homegrown concepts.
You've also had the Made in Dubai campaign as well, haven't you, Suhaila? Which is
we've worked in
highlight homegrown concepts.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I think the last year has definitely been the year of the homegrown. Certainly, obviously, Samantha, you've been pushing that. But one thing I also wonder about is, with people not being able to travel over the past year, you know, have they had more spending power to do more experiential dining experiences, things like celebrity chef visits or large collaborations? Samantha, has that been a trend that you've seen?
Yeah, very much so. I mean, the foodies, again, they're definitely hungry for unusual dining experiences because, yeah, with the lack of travel, they use that as a substitute. I've seen it firsthand with my 3 chefs dinners selling out in hours, literally. Also with other dinner collaborations with restaurants, they sell out pretty quickly. I think they were always popular, but more so over the last year. And it will be interesting to see if that continues as well once international travel fully opens up.
I concur. Yeah, I was going to say, I concur with Samantha. I think people are just looking for that point of difference. And again, this is where, you know, I support that, you know, for the hotels that have, the hotel operators that have like kind of pivoted and become a little bit more innovative, you know, have benefited. So, you know, we with my team, we partnered with, you know, for example, the tasting class and Lindsay, and through Dubai Food Festival, we linked up with her and did a lot of joint ventures, but we're continuing to work with her on some great tasting events in Abu Dhabi and in Dubai. You know, we obviously did our stuff with DFF. We did a number of chefs' tables, and, you know, Chef Rene at the, you know, Hilton by Doubletree in Business Bay, who would have thought his Asian street food chef's table would sell out every single night? And it did, you know, not what you would consider to be a foodie destination, but because Chef Rene, Indonesian, totally authentic, you know, it was an experience that guests were looking for during the Dubai Food Festival. And then, you know, we've had opportunities globally where we've looked, you know, for example, one of our hotels, one of our restaurants in Prague was actually signed up for a contract with that experiential dining. It's kind of a bit themey, but it's very popular, commands a high average check, Le Petit Chef. But because of the continued lockdowns in Europe, we kind of said, well, look, you know, let's just pivot this round. Why don't you come to Abu Dhabi? And they've come to the top restaurant at the top of Conrad Etihad Towers, sold out every night. And, you know, it's quite a high average check, but it's something people are just looking for, these points of difference and different things, you know. We launched the Bull of Wall Street brunch, first time brunch at the Bull and Bear and VIFC, and of course we launched a brunch during the opening up of the real strict restrictions. I mean, Samantha went with me. You know, it was you know, there's no mute, you couldn't have entertainment, you couldn't have dancing, you couldn't have anything. So we just went around this whole thematic, immersive, a la carte brunch. And it went and won, you know, very many, you know, magazine brunch awards, and it's relaunching again, you know. And so it was possible to innovate within the restrictions of the pandemic. And those restaurants that did and had the right restaurant or bar management in their properties, you know. And it's about, let's be clear, it's also about the right talent. You know, Samantha talks about local homegrown talent. Well, there you have people that live and die by their food and beverage business by the day. But again, about the hotel operators, the one thing that becomes very clear is, you know, you have to have the right people in your properties as well, delivering the concepts and delivering the real passion and soul and the magic of food and beverage and the whole experience. And I think that's what's come. You know, the one thing, everything can go virtual, everything can go digital, you know, but the one thing is the human and emotional connection of going for a dining out experience with friends and families. That will never go virtual and digital, you know. I mean, it just won't. So, you know, viva food and beverage.
And actually, on your point about the sort of average check, and yet some of these experiences can be pretty pricey. But provided you're giving value, people will pay for it. But they'll only come once. If they come once and they don't see that value, they're not going to come again. So you've got to make sure that, yes, you're giving them a one-off experience, and it's slightly different and it's experiential in a lot of ways, but that value still has to be there, and probably more so than ever.
Lynn, I saw a press release today from one of the Marriott resorts that had just launched some safaris with private chefs that go along with you. You know, I'm guessing that's the very high end of experiential dining. Is that something that you think, with people not being able to go, that is something they're taking advantage of more?
Absolutely, and that's why we're coming up with all these different ideas of, you know, just experiences for people. I mean, our topic this year is looking at the leisure experience for the guest, and, you know, how can we sort of really keep these guests entertained, not just in the rooms, you know, not just, you know, with breakfast or what have you, but the whole experience of the stay. So coming up with those chef safaris and things like that. Yeah, they're becoming very, very popular, and it's sustaining a lot of the business doing things like that, for sure.
Absolutely. Now, I think we're also seeing increasing competition through F&B regionally, with the likes of, you know, as you said, as our hotel representative said, in terms of Saudi Arabia, there's still been fantastic domestic tourism. I imagine there's certainly plenty of people there that want to go to Riyadh to dine at LPM or Zuma or these fantastic restaurants that are opening up there. And obviously inside the Hilton and Marriott hotels, again, so some excellent dining options. So I wonder to Sahila, how does Dubai compete with that now? You know, how does Dubai help to stand out and try and encourage people from Riyadh to come here when they can, rather than just stay in Riyadh and eat there?
Well, I think international restaurant, you can dine anywhere. You know, you can be in London or New York and experience the same restaurant on those destinations. It's all about those authentic experiences and those different kind of offerings that you have in your portfolio that makes you stand out. Add to that also that the city of Dubai have multiple offerings, including the gastronomy. So there is multiple strong points or USPs, let's say, for the city that supports the gastronomy pillar and make it a people of destination of choice, you know, when it comes to gastronomy and when it comes to other also pillars like entertainment or retail and so on.
I think we've seen over the past, even over the past year, despite the challenges, we've seen Dubai open things like Timeout Market, which is obviously bringing kind of all the homegrown chefs together. Samantha, do you think that's something that will be important in bringing people to the city and to the UAE?
Very much so. I mean, Timeout's actually strategy in the past has been very much to target tourists rather than residents. So the fact that they managed to pivot in a pretty short time and reach out to a local residential population and to be pretty much round lunch and dinner since the opening, and it still is. So I think they will definitely, I mean, obviously international tourism, international marketing plan is key to them. So it will be interesting to see, I mean, what the summer will entail for them. But I think venues like that, destinations like that, which offer a huge choice at a very affordable price point. And let's also talk about the alcohol. It's probably the cheapest place in Dubai to get any kind of alcoholic beverage as well. Obviously that brings in a slightly demographic as well, but I think that's also key to it, because that's always been the most sort of cost prohibitive part of dining here. So for an international tourist, that's going to be hugely popular.
Yeah, I think also if you look at Timeout, the model of Timeout, I mean, let's face it, food halls are exploding globally, be it in warehouses, car parks, whatever, you know, and everybody's reinventing food hall brands. But the Timeout, you know, I mean, if you look at what Dubai Timeout has done, you know, is compared to other Timeouts that you go to, and, you know, I'd be interested to see how they're doing. But, you know, in Dubai, you've got amazing, you know, the whole thing is contactless. They're very open at the beginning about QR codes, contactless payment. They've got, you know, good ways of rewarding the team members there by tipping through your Apple Pay or whatever. You know, it's a good experience. There's security. There's a nice cordoned off area that for people that don't want to enjoy the alcohol. You know, it's really well thought through. So I think that, you know, they will only go from strength to strength when tourists come as well. And this is the thing, this region has been at the front of, you know, the hygiene, the government support, the technology, the delivery platforms, the innovation, the retailers innovating around food and meal kits. I think the whole gastronomic destination of Dubai, you know, is just is strengthen it as a gastronomic destination globally. You know, every sector's played its part, from the big hotels right down to, you know, the smaller independent operators at every level, really.
I wonder, you know, when things do begin to open up, Lynn, is there an expectation that perhaps people will only travel regionally? Will they travel internationally? Do you think we'll see more Saudis coming here, or will they be looking to go further afield? Do you think Dubai will be able to make the most of a regional connection?
Oh no, definitely. I mean, as soon as things open up, you're just going to have that movement again. People coming in, people going out. You're just going to have that flow. And just different demographics. So, you know, it's been great. People having staycations and eating locally and spending all their money locally here. But let's face it, people are really dying to go overseas now, and they want to see their families. They want to go on holiday somewhere different. But it's the same, people want to come here, you know, people in the UK are wanting the sunshine, so they're dying to get to Dubai. So you are going to have that flow, and, you know, we're looking at definitely an increase of business continuing throughout the year now. It's going to be a steady uplift throughout the year where it comes to hotels and restaurants. You know, the people are just going to, you know, keep on spending here, and it is going to keep coming up for Dubai. For UAE, I think for the rest of the Gulf, I think Q3, Q4 will really tell if things are going to actually be looking up for them. I think, you know, 2022 is very much dependent upon the latter part of this year for the rest of the Gulf and how that's going to go when they're opening up.
Samantha, I believe you ran a poll on Instagram with over 1,000 or so responses before we even went live today. So in terms of that, was asking the question of whether people want to leave or whether they'll be staying. What was the response?
Yeah, I mean, I only put it live earlier this morning, so it's still got a few more hours to run. But yes, just under 1,000 responses. 73% will travel out of the UAE this summer. So that's actually a lot higher than I thought it would be. And that's the billion-dollar question, isn't it, at the moment, is there going to be a mass exodus this summer or isn't there? I do think it's a bit of a slow burner. I think leisure visitors will replace some of the local residential business lost to people traveling. But let's also remember, here in the UAE, it's off-peak season. It's not the most appealing destination at the moment because of the weather, but yes, it also depends on the deals that you can get in hotels. But I think from an F&B perspective, it's probably going to remain steady, but I don't think it's going to be as busy as last summer. That's for sure. Yeah.
But I mean, sorry, Simon, to that point as well, though, I think the ladies are right. You know, people are going to come, people are going to go. We're all watching air corridors and watching, you know, how we're going to walk around with our COVID vaccination passports, and, you know, how we're going to recognise each country's virtual passport around COVID. But the reality of it is, you know, again, back to this region, you know, let's look at it. There is, you know, there's been absolutely astounding statistics around the work in the UAE visa initiative, for example, you know, which has supported us, not just local residents, but offsetting that is, you know, will people say, do you know what, I still work from home, so, you know, I can travel, I can suck up that 2 weeks quarantine or whatever, and then have my 2 or 3 weeks on vacation somewhere because I can kind of work from anywhere. So there's still a lot of dynamics to play to call it, you know, air corridors, we need to get planes up in the air, but, you know, what will happen around COVID vaccines, vaccination programs, but, you know, also we've got so many initiatives here going to encourage people to come to this region for the time being, and also people coming and going. It's very open, and there is a real sentiment that some people are just desperate, like that pent-up demand to travel, but then some people are kind of like, you know, if you've got a family and you've got children, it all adds up, all the different requirements you need to fulfill to travel. So it's still, I think it's quite a hard one to call. But I think people are, one thing for sure, there's a huge, all our research shows pent-up demand. So to echo what Lynn says, people will flee, but people will come.
Yeah.
Samantha, do you think then, as you said there, it might not be as busy as last year? Could that all depend on just how much is open during the summer? And if more people have to stay, then that will be a good thing for the local F&B scene?
Yes, yeah. I mean, it also goes back to what we started off with earlier, how good the restaurants and the F&B concepts are in terms of marketing, not just to residents, but potentially also to international tourists as well. So I think last summer was obviously a little bit unusual because a month prior we had just come out of lockdown, and it's 2 days out of a year that we came out of lockdown last year as well. So it's slightly different dynamic. People are sort of more used to going out now. The novelty is probably worn off a little bit. And then you combine that with the travel, which is why I sort of say I think it's going to be steady. I don't think it's going to be as busy as everyone expects it to be.
I think there's...
Yeah.
Sorry, I was going to say, Simon, the point that, you know, is slightly a little bit off field, but I think it's a point to make. You know, I've been in this region 9 years. Everybody knows I love it. I'm very supportive of it, even though I've got an EMEA role. You know, my home is here. But, you know, let's be clear, if you want to look at Dubai as a gastronomic destination, you know, let's be really proud that some of our local restaurateurs are now putting flagship locations in London. You know, you've got Joey, you've got Reef, you've got a few operators now from this region, all celebrating that they're actually going to be, you know, also opening in London. So Dubai is exporting some of its local concepts to other parts of the world. And that's something, as in Hilton, you know, me and my team are always keen to do. We look at wanting to work with local operators in their market, but we always say we also want to take you other places should you wish to partner with us and go. So, I mean, you know, I think we should be very proud that we've actually got some strong operators here now who are actually opening a little bit of Dubai gastronomy in cities like London, and we should celebrate that.
If I may add also to the discussion around travel and people flying in and so on. So from Dubai tourism perspective, also, we have a huge summer campaign coming up. We're working on a full-fledged campaign that is focusing on all the different pillars, gastronomy being very strong in it this year. And that campaign is going to go internationally, locally, and regionally in terms of marketing. And if you look at what we're trying to do is to promote Dubai as a safe family destination where people can come and enjoy the summer vacation. Now, looking back at the fact that people are very eager to travel, that's a fact with everybody, right? Everybody is very eager to travel. But again, it depends on other calculations, right? Especially if you have family and kids, you will be very careful in terms of taking them to a destination where you are uncertain about, you know, how the pandemic is performing there, how is the vaccinations going there, what is the health and safety measures in that destination. So everybody is really in a pool. They would say, yes, I would be happy to travel, but again, all those calculations needs to be considered for individuals. At the same time, this year we've worked as a team and we've launched the gastronomy strategy, and the gastronomy strategy for the city of Dubai is a big focus for the next few years, you know, with pillars focusing on value for money, with pillars focusing on the authenticity of the concepts that are here, and so on. So there is a lot of focus on gastronomy being a strong pillar as we go forward in the next few years to promote it as one of the key reason for people to travel during any time of the year.
Sorry, I'm smiling.
And I was going to say, I think it also depends on people's perception of what travel means. Is it a 2-week holiday, or are people going for a month or 2 months? And that depends a lot on where their home country is, or are they going to Airbnb somewhere that's perhaps easier to get to because of air corridors, vaccine passports, etc. So that's what's going to be interesting to see from a trend perspective this year. Is that going to change versus pre-COVID on the travel?
Yeah, we're coming towards the end of the panel, so I'd like to get kind of final thoughts on the topic as a whole. And Sahila, if I could come to you first, and you know, I think you perhaps covered it a bit with that answer there. But if international travel does fully return soon, you know, what effect will that have in Dubai? And do you think with all these campaigns, will Dubai be able to entice more travelers, you know, than people who leave and make it a positive summer?
Well, definitely. I mean, we're taking a very agile approach in terms of approaching our upcoming campaigns. I mean, in 2020, we've reopened the city, we've reopened tourism, we've reopened retail at the summer itself. And it was a great comeback to the city, and a strong statement that, you know, Dubai is strong, and, you know, it's a great destination. And from there, we've started continuing our legacy, which we've launched last year. So this year there is a bigger efforts from all the team, whether it was us or the also other departments, to make sure that the comeback is very strong and the summer is really in the top mind of people, where we're talking already to destinations to keep Dubai as a destination in the top of mind when they think of traveling. And as we go closer to the summer, if, for example, something like the Indian market, what happened in the Indian market suddenly, closed and locked down, and we're looking at different markets. So we don't focus on one single market. We're looking at multiple markets to make sure that we get the right tourists into the city. And at the same time, not forgetting the local residents who's been our tourists in the last 1 year, and making sure that also we give them the offerings, the staycations, the foodie experiences that they're looking for.
Now, Lynn, in terms of the regional F&B, again, the kind of the same question: if international travel does return soon, what effect do you think that will have on local regional F&B?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we're all waiting for international travel to start, and that's down to the vaccines coming in, and I'm trying to get some business people into one of the countries, and everyone's saying no, they have to be vaccinated and things like that. So I think vaccinations are pivotal. They're so important for to get the travel up and running again. And Dubai, I don't think we have to worry about too much. I think that is really on a, as I said, it's a steady increase. It's they're on top of it. It's all working really well. It's the other countries that we really have to focus on. It's the Qatars, it's the Omans. Saudi is starting to come back. Egypt is looking pretty strong at the moment as well. But the rest of the Gulf is a little bit tough right now. So those are the ones we really have to focus on. But yeah, we're very optimistic about things opening up again. But vaccinations, that's the key.
Emma, do you share Lynn's optimism that with international travel, we won't just see a mass exodus, we'll still see plenty of people coming into the region, whether that's Saudi Arabia, whether that's the UAE, and still lots of people going to their local restaurants?
I share the optimism of a lot of people who are a lot cleverer and wiser and more informed and knowledgeable than myself. Hilton has 60 hotels in the Middle East and Africa, just in the Middle East, sorry, not in Africa. So we have 60 hotels and we have 86 in the pipeline. So, I think there's a lot of people that are completely locked in, solid, confident in this region. We have very strong campaigns from a food and beverage perspective for the rest of this year. And what is very, very interesting, and we could have another 5 hours on this topic, is the amount of owners that we are engaging with as a food and beverage team. My team of what I would call food and beverage consultants rather than hoteliers, we're all from the sector of food and beverage specifically. Owners are massively engaged around their food and beverage, around their restaurants, around their bars, around their public spaces. And one thing that the pandemic has shown up is that owners want to invest in this space. They see the value in it. They see the halo effect on their property. They see that leisure guests, luxury guests, tourists very much want to have an attractive dining and leisure experience within their properties. So, I think what has happened, the pandemic is been a huge opportunity for food and beverage. But I go back to the point, the pipeline of properties in this region is unstoppable. And, I think people have confidence in this region.
Fantastic positivity from the hotel side of things. And Samantha, then finally, from the local homegrown scene, perhaps here in Dubai, if international travel does get fully up and running, how optimistic are you that we can have a good summer?
I think it will be steady. I don't think it's going to be as strong as last year. And I think it will sort of rise and fall across sort of July and August, if you look at that as the sort of key summer period. Because yes, people will leave, but they're not necessarily going to leave for 2 months as well. And yes, and that will be replaced by, some of that business will be replaced by international travel.
Listen, I would like to thank you, the panel, so much for joining me. Thank you everyone for watching. Great to hear some positivity there throughout the session. I think there's lots that the region can look forward to over the next few months, and hopefully as we come out of this pandemic, we'll be all the stronger for it. So yes, please, thank you so much to Emma Banks from Hilton, thanks to Lynn Bellinger from Marriott, thanks to Suhaila Gubash from Dubai Tourism, and Samantha Woods, of course, restaurant reviewer, Food Diva. Thank you so much for all your time. I hope you enjoyed that, and please enjoy the rest of ATM Virtual.
Thanks, Simon.
Thank you.